Besties by Caitlin, we spilling the tea. From Bravo to pop culture, got opinions for free. White refrigerator by wig, we scream. It's all happening like a mid-season dream. That's my opinion, yeah, I said what I said. Shady, confessional, glam, toast to my head. Champagne or tea, pour up the truth. Reality bites and we came with the proof. We're all besties here, no lies, no filter. Reading these shows like a guilty pleasure scripture. Cameras up in the drama for days. Hit play, now they hear what your besties gotta say. I'm not really sure what I've done to you. I'm not really sure what I've done to you. I'm not really sure what I've done to you. But I'll take a Pinot Grigio. I'm not really sure what I've done to you.
Hi, besties. Thank you for joining me today. It is August 14th and it's Thursday. I know I'm getting this out maybe a day late by typical standards, I guess, but it is kind of back to school week. So I am, running around being a little crazy as usual. But this is the final part of the Valley reunions. Time magazine put out this think piece trying to tell Bravo to get rid of the Valley, and absolutely not. No, now that we got rid of Jax, I think we're fine. Yes, we may still have Janet, but I think we still have to have a villain, y'all. Quit now, Jax. That's not even just a villain. That's a garbage person, and not the fun kind. That is a terrible human being, and we needed to get rid of that person. We need to have a villain, though. Without villains in stories, there is no one to root for. There's no hero, okay? So even though Janet is driving me crazy, we need her. I hate to admit it. I hate to, but I must, okay? I have to be honest. We have to keep her, at least for right now. This is a long recap. I'm forewarning you. So I'm going to go ahead and get on into it. Shall we, my friends? Okay. We're picking back up from the argument where Danny and Nia are clarifying that Danny was saying he couldn't believe Janet brought up the Halloween incident again, not Jasmine. And Janet claiming she's glad she kept bringing it up because he has made multiple women uncomfortable since as recently as the Super Bowl, which Nia tells her that she's making it sound like Danny is out there grabbing women, which is wrong. Now, Janet is sick of getting the brunt of all of this, so she says that there are people on this stage who know about recent incidents, and she calls on Michelle, who says that Brittany is who mentioned she felt uncomfortable on her own birthday. See, this is where, Brittany, you're doing stuff behind the scenes, Miss Kentucky Muffin, okay? Now, Brittany says, well, Danny, you did get pretty drunk and you were following me around a bit, but you didn't touch me or nothing. His personality just very much changed. You become very flirtatious. I don't really know how to explain it, but it wasn't that same thing that was on Halloween. Okay. I mean, you were talking mess, it sounds like, Brittany. You sure were. Nia is saying how important it is to be specific as Andy looks to Janet and Jason, saying they just claimed Danny grabbed people. But Jason's backing up, saying, no, he isn't the one who said that. Yes, because it was Janet, your wife, who made that insinuation. And Andy is like, no, you said he's done the same thing. But Janet skirts around that one, saying it's that he's done things other times. So Andy asks Danny if he thinks he has a drinking problem after Jasmine said he did while they were in Santa Barbara. He's so very clearly uncomfortable, trying to laugh through it. But Jasmine jumps in saying she only said that because of what he did, that it's clear he has some sort of issue with alcohol. So now Jason thinks it's his turn to hold Danny further accountable on this, asking him if he really thinks he doesn't have an issue with alcohol. But Danny tells him he hasn't had a drink in a couple of weeks. And listen, I have to be fair here. I've talked about this before, my friends, because I don't think Danny is an alcoholic personally. Okay. And I think there's this really kind of dangerous rhetoric that a quote unquote alcohol problem either means you're an alcoholic who thinks about it 24/7 or not. There are people I know who can literally have exactly 2 small glasses of wine or just 2 beers or 2 White Claws a night And that's it. They enjoy it. They're perfectly fine. They're not thinking about it all day. It's not a big deal. Then there are people I know who only drink on the weekend and then they binge. Okay. There are people I know who drink once every 2 weeks and go way too far the times they do. And it's embarrassing being with them in public. Sound familiar? And then there are people I know who drink regularly and then occasionally have too much and they become horrendous people. And then there are people I know who overdo it every time they touch it, which is as often as they can. And they're so much more fun to be around when they do touch it. But then, I don't know, maybe it's about 30% of the time that they become raging a-holes. And not all of those people are considered full-blown raging alcoholics. So this is the thing. I'd say not all of these people have alcohol problems. I'd say quite a few of them do. And people's relationship with alcohol is very nuanced. And I think that in a situation like this, it's who knows them the best sober and has seen them enough times when they're not sober to know what changes happen within their behavior. And listen, I've also reminded y'all of this before. All it takes is two like full cocktails, two alcoholic drinks. So cocktails are 2 glasses of wine, 2 beers of certain alcoholic the percentage. And it changes your cognitive function in your brain. That's it. So if you're over there having 5 or 6 just to have a good time and you're not paying attention to that off switch in your brain, like, hey, it's time to slow it down, maybe that's a question for yourself. So I think I hate to throw Janet and Jason this bone, but I think they are making a fair point of the difference between an alcoholic eventually and someone who has a problem with alcohol. Okay. I think it's a fair point to be making. Hate throwing Janet any bone. But Jason says everyone on this stage has issues with alcohol, to be honest, which has everyone getting upset. And I don't know why Jax, of all people, is the one who looks at him and goes, "What? Sir, you went to rehab twice in the last 6 months to this date of the reunion, so let's not." Okay. And to be completely honest and fair, Jason is also not completely off base with what he's saying. I don't think Kristen has the same issues with alcohol she used to. And I've not seen Luke, Nia, or even Michelle have any issues with it, but we've seen and heard everyone else on that stage have too much and have moments that they let it get the best of them. So he's not completely off base. He doesn't have both feet on it. Okay. Danny asks Jason if he has a drinking problem, and Jason admits it's something he has to think about every time he drinks. And again, to be fair, don't we all though? Like if we're going somewhere and know we're drinking no matter what, we do have to think about the amount we're going to consume. And if we're going to drive, whether you want to say you have to think about any other part, you have to question the amount you're going to have and if it's going to be safe to drive. Okay. And if there's even a thought that you could have more than one drink, I would hope you're going to be planning out that proper course of action by way of a lift, public transportation, a DD, what have you. Because when I tell y'all those DUIs are not worth it, especially if you hurt someone, honey. Kristen gets on to Jason about this, though, and essentially lets him know he needs to backtrack on it. So Jason just goes, "Well, I've never hung out with Andy." Okay, well, all right. Janet says that all of us are lying when we tell our doctors how many drinks we have. Luke is just like, I don't. I mean, let me be real. When I was younger, I absolutely did. I won't lie to the besties, though, but I don't have to lie about it now because I certainly don't drink like I used to. That's for damn sure. Jesse comes to Danny's defense, though, saying that he knows issues with alcohol and he, as in Danny, doesn't have them. But Danny goes out and gets effed up. Well, okay, I'm sorry. There are people, fine, like once in a very blue moon, maybe a special occasion, or I don't know, something if you go harder than you meant to one night. But if you're getting wasted every time you choose to drink, no matter if it's once every 3 months, then that you have a problem with it. If you can't only consume a certain amount, it's not about how often, if your ability to consume it is only in large quantities. Okay. I hate to be that blatant. Okay. It kind of reminds me of, remember it may not be this way for everyone, high school or even for some people, college, or just like the first time you started drinking. But especially if you were starting to be experimenting with that in college, I'm sorry, in high school, especially, but college too. You did not like the taste of alcohol. You were doing everything you could to make it not taste like alcohol, but you were not sitting there enjoying it, right? So, what were you doing? You were taking shots, trying to just get drunk so that you could be drunk with your friends, and your friends were trying to get drunk to be drunk with you. And it's just like this cycle of everyone just trying to be drunk together, and that's just kind of what it reminds me of, and it's not something you should be continuing on in adulthood, okay? Because once you know what a hangover feels like, and once you know what it feels like to actually be, like, drunk, it's not exactly fun, okay? Okay, and that's something I stress about so much as a parent when they get to high school and all of that. Oh my God, don't even get me started. Anyway, Jesse says that sometimes Danny makes mistakes. Sometimes he's hilarious, but he doesn't think Danny has a drinking problem. And this is where Janet asks him what he defines as an alcohol problem. And, he essentially describes an alcoholic in the full throes of intense addiction. And again, alcoholism isn't necessarily just thinking about it when you wake up and wanting to put it in your cereal, besties. Alcoholism can be not, it doesn't have to be that intense. That's just the way it's been painted for us in the media. It can be a little less intense than that. I think Lala Kent was a good example of that. Yes, there were days she was doing hair of the dog and she would overdo it, but I think that she was an example of not constantly drinking, that we could see drinking it all the time. So maybe she's not the best example, but there are plenty of ways you can look at it, but it's not constantly thinking about it and drinking throughout the day to keep yourself level. Not all people who are alcoholics are that way. Anyway, God, it's so anyway. And again, I hate to agree with Janet, but she lets Jesse know he's describing alcoholism, the addiction, versus what they're talking about, which is a problem with alcohol resulting in problematic behavior. So here's where Jason has lost me further. He already lost me by continuously defending Jax like, I don't know, this little golden retriever for Jax Taylor. And I don't know how Brittany can be so close with Janet, yet watch Janet's husband be so defensive of her blatantly and admittedly abusive ex-husband, or soon to be ex-husband. But Jason repeatedly mentions, by the way, that this is a show, and this season and this show, that we're on a show at this reunion. And they aren't really supposed to do that. I don't know if y'all are aware of this. And I want you to pay attention, for example, to how Kristen speaks. She's our veteran who knows she needs to play by the rules these days. And compare it to how Jason and Janet will speak. And Kristen will only use the word show, episode, season, whatever, when they are repeatedly using it and she has to go ahead and speak their language for them. But Kristen will typically say this whole summer, while Jason and Janet will repeatedly say things like this whole season, on the show, on TV, on a TV show. And it's making him and Janet as transparent as Jax's nasal cavities were about to be after those 3 nose jobs and inhaling nose beers every 10 minutes on a daily basis. Okay. Jason says that he would think he had an alcohol problem if it were an entire storyline on a TV show. So there's at least the first mention of it being a TV show. And Danny points out that he didn't drink half of the shooting. And Jason claims he didn't want to make this a thing and get all worked up because they're good people, with Janet chiming in, good people when they're sober. But Danny reminds Jason that he literally just called him a clown. Even Jesse, who, let me remind you all, called his wife, verbatim, a cheating whore and a prostitute on camera. Okay. Tells Jason he should apologize for calling Danny a clown. So, I mean, I would say it's like the pot calling the kettle black, but it's much worse than that. Mm-hmm. And Jason just looks at him and is like, when Jesse says this, he's going, well, no, he isn't. He's a clown. And finally is just like, after Danny's like, dude, you're name calling. He's like, all right, fine. That was immature. Shouldn't have called you a name. So Brittany says that none of them think Danny is a bad person. It's just that he sometimes acts out of character when he drinks. Well, no shit, Sherlock. I think that's been well established. Oh my God. I just wish that Kristen, because she knew what they were doing, and it's going to become very apparent how much she knew what Janet and Jason were doing here with this stupid ring removal rumor. And I wish she just would have been like, I'm just not even going to talk about it now. Nope, I have nothing to contribute. Nah, I got nothing to say. Nada throughout the whole season, but she had to. Anyway, so this stupid ring removal rumor and how Jason thinks Jasmine just straight up concocted this whole thing is what we move on to. And Jasmine is just like, that is the dumbest rumor I've ever heard. So basically, if I was going to make up a rumor about you two idiots, it wouldn't be that you remove your ring at bars. Okay, Mr. Corporate Defender against Workers' Comp. My God. And Kristen's just over there being like, I could do way better than that. Oh, trust me, we know you could. Andy brings up the pitiful little tattoos that Jason and Janet went to get of their wedding bands to debunk a rumor that wasn't true and that they didn't care anything about because their marriage is perfect. Okay? Yeah. Which Janet says it was just this can of worms and claims that, it was made public and she's always wanted Jason to get a tattoo and thought they'd make a day of it and get these tattoos. Okay. You know what, Janet? Yeah, it's like it made y'all look so much more desperate. And I don't even know. It literally either confirmed that you were stressed. He was removing it. So you were like, listen here, you little motherfucker. You're getting a ring you can never remove. You understand me? Or you were literally so desperate for attention and to have a scene to film, you decided to permanently ink yourself and your husband for the sake of a TV show. Okay. For a minute and a half on screen. Okay. That's all you got for that. Just so you know. Just want to remind you, it's permanent. Forever. Andy goes to Zack and how he had said it was funny that Janet and Jason laughed off the rumor at the shark party at first and then made a whole thing about it. Zack says he thinks they didn't think it was a big deal, but then they went home and thought about it and made the decision that it was their storyline now. Because remember, these two know and are so very aware that they are on a TV show. Luke is cracking up and Kristen is trying so hard not to do the same. And Janet's spewing some bullshit at Kristen about how they were clearly not getting to a better place and that it's no secret that she and Jason have a calm and boring marriage. To which Kristen clocks with, so now you're relevant. Like, you're welcome. And Andy goes, do you owe Kristen an apology for making you relevant? And Janet says no, but that it's now out there publicly where people will be questioning Jason's character. So Kristen has to own up to that. And thank you. Oh my God. I love Kristen so much for this. Y'all have no idea. Like, honestly, I really do, because this is exactly how I felt. Kristen straight up tells Janet, people don't care. The only people that perpetuated this the whole summer long were you two. Again, note, she didn't say the whole season. She said the whole summer long. And then she says, and I don't mean this in an asshole way, but you're literally not important to fans to care that much about. Sorry, guys, she's right. We don't give a shit. We really don't. It's not like, I don't know, if it were Kristen and Luke. Honestly, if it were Danny and Nia, we would probably be sad about this. We would. It doesn't, we don't care. We don't care. And she points out that this whole thing they kept going on about was after Kristen admitted to them she was just being an asshole after they went after her friends, which for some reason Janet and Jason don't understand what she means when she says they went after her friends. It's like, do y'all have some sort of selective amnesia? What are you doing? Because I know you guys not only watched the show, it's like you had like a whiteboard next to you. You paused it and you were drawing on this whiteboard, doing play-by-plays. You were doing slow-mos. I mean, my God, you were just analyzing every single thing like it was ESPN. Danny is laughing ironically at this. And Janet's little bitchy poo ass mutters to Jason, of course, the ass grabber's laughing. Girl, shut up. Kristen reminds them again that she was straight up with them by saying she was just trying to be a bitch by bringing the rumor up. And Jason's like, well, why are we not allowed to be mad? You're being a bitch. And Kristen's like, you are. But you wouldn't shut the hell up about this the whole summer. Again, that's verbatim the entire summer, not the season. I'm going to harp on this because it bothers me. And I feel that it is truly revealing exactly what Janet and Jason have been doing, y'all. Because the more he says that shit. Anyway, and because this is when I'm sorry. Jason says he was more upset with Jasmine about this than he was with Kristen telling him. Jason says he was more upset with Jasmine about this than with Kristen, and telling him her point is that the two of them. Kristen tells him that her point is the two of them keep claiming that she lies, and then Jason goes, "We didn't even go after you the entire season." Again, the more he says shit like this, the more I am convinced these two sit at home and strategize what they're going to be doing before, during, after filming the season. They fully had a strategy meeting before this reunion. But Kristen had me cracking up at this because she goes, I do not have a reputation for making things up or being a liar. I have a reputation for uncovering the truth. And Andy looks at her and he's like, is that your reputation? So Kristen wavers just a little bit under Daddy's scrutiny by saying, uncovering the truth and inserting myself in places that are none of my business. Yes, fully agree. And also, she's not a liar. It's just sometimes she does get her info a little wrong. Did happen a few times last season, season 1. Oopsies, poopsies. Jasmine yelling at Janet that she was a shit-ass friend, vibe killer, and gave Karen energies where Andy steers it next, asking her what, really got her to that point. And Jasmine says she was trying to talk to Jason, but that Janet was muttering things like snake and liar. And okay, I never heard Janet saying that. Did y'all? I mean, the playback didn't show that. I mean, Janet was being annoying as hell because she was doing the, okay, when did you hear this? Done. Bitch, shut up. I would have been like, just shut up. Because she was trying to pull Jason away from the conversation, not like she owned him, basically, not letting Jasmine speak. But I never heard Janet call Jasmine a snake or a liar that I recall. I mean, also, this was, I don't know, maybe 2 months ago. So I can't remember anything. Janet says they should roll that footage if they have it. See, we're talking in this is a show terms. And I'm telling you, Janet is strategic in this with Jason. It's, very intentional to be masterful. And at this point, I have to say, I believe that Janet sticking up, and y'all may get mad at me for this. I don't think you will, because I know how we all feel about Janet. Oh man, I got to call it like I see it. I do. I feel that the way Janet has gone on and on and on about the incident with Danny, Jasmine, and Melissa, after being told by Jasmine and Melissa they don't want her to speak on it anymore, it feels performative. And it feels as though she is doing this with some sort of white savior complex for the only Black woman on this cast. And the problem is instead of listening to what the only Black woman on this cast is saying to her and hearing her, just like in that conversation, wouldn't even let her speak and kept talking over her. She continued on with her own agenda, thinking that what she had to say was so important because she was saving Jasmine. I'm a good friend. I'm sticking up for the woman of color on our cast who is queer. I am a white woman doing this. And so that's where I feel like she is almost overdoing it, trying to prove she's not a Karen. Because I get it. I I too, in case you haven't noticed, I am a white woman as well. And it's easy we get pissy about anything. It's easy to be called a Karen. That's just, we had some psychotic, ignorant, bitchy white women ruin it for everyone. And, that's the way it goes. And now we just kind of have to be on our P's and Q's a little bit more. And that's the way it is. And I feel like this is Janet being performative, standing up for Jasmine. And I think that while her thought process at the beginning of this and her intentions were good, I will give her that. I think it has truly become a white savior complex, and it does more damage to Jasmine than it does help her, not only for the cause, but as a friend, because like I said, she just is not even listening. Like, just like they do with the toddlers in classes. Turn on your listening ears, Janet. Turn them on. Jasmine is telling you she wants you to be done with this. Melissa has told you she wants you to be done with this. It doesn't matter what Danny says because he's the one who did it. Okay. And I'm not trying to stick up for Danny in this because it's been admitted, it's been all of it. So this is not me standing up for what he did. This is how you stand up for someone. If they tell you stop, and it's not coming from a place of fear of retaliation. And even then, you have to listen to the person who it happened to, period. It's not your place, Janet. Enough. God. Anyway, they roll the stupid footage from the beach. And now I didn't hear Janet saying the snake liar stuff to Jasmine. And it was, in fact, Jason saying Jasmine was the biggest snake in the grass right under my nose this whole time. Jason asks Jasmine if she felt like she was manipulated at all to go after him and Janet like that. And Jasmine thinks on this a second, while Zack asks by who, and Kristen asks if he means by her. But Luke shushes her and tells her to wait her turn. Luke, baby, we love you so much, but Kristen knows what she's doing right here. Okay, pumpkin, you shush, baby doll. Jasmine asks for clarification here if he thinks she was manipulated by other people. No, Jasmine, he's asking if you were manipulated by, I don't know, the Labubus. I don't even know what those things really are. What are they, you guys? I've seen them everywhere. What are they? But then didn't they just get canceled? Maybe I'm not enough. I need to brush up more on my pop culture, I guess. All I saw was that they were like $250 for these stupid like demon dolls. People were saying, what the hell are they? They're so okay. I'm sorry. If you love them, I'm sorry. I know people are like putting them on their Birkin bags. Like, excuse me, if I can afford a Birkin bag, I am not putting that on my Birkin bag. Someday. Anyway, I don't know if I could afford a Birkin bag. I don't know that I'd be buying one of those anyway. What? I could be doing so much. I could be doing much better things with that money. You know what I mean? Okay. Anyway. And here we go again. I should be keeping count. When Jason says, yes, manipulated by other people. Yes, this season, watching it back. Did you think that? I think this was like 3 times in the first 10 minutes of this show, of this reunion, whatever. And Kristen is over there telling Luke, don't shush me. And I would be doing the same. I'd be like, you listen here. You shut the fuck up. But Luke is used to this. He just goes, babe, come on. Just does these prayer hands and is just, you can tell he's like, and he knows probably at the same time how physically uncomfortable Kristen is having to sit there on that probably very uncomfortable sofa, being so pregnant and the hormones. And y'all wait a goddamn gosh darn tootin' minute. Little Miss Bitchy Poo Janet last year was all about, don't yell at me. I'm pregnant. Don't stress me out. I'm pregnant. Watch your tone. I am with child. All season last year. And now she's sitting there trying to get both Kristen and Nia as riled up as effing possible, even raising her voice and getting a tone with these two women who are mind you, probably even more pregnant than Janet was at this point, even sitting there watching Jason, her husband, a man, raise his voice. What a hypocritical little turd muncher. Ooh, Janet. Oh, I don't like referring to other women as bitches. Not in a serious way. You know, I love being like, "Oh my god, bitch," but not like you bitch. But you bitchy poo. And I mean that in the meanest way possible, okay? Jasmine says she doesn't think she was manipulated by anyone. And let me say that watching Andy pick up on what Kristen said to the side there, by the way, going ahead and asking Jason who he thinks Jasmine was manipulated by and if it was Kristen, I think it must be how men feel when legendary sports guy people get separated by, like, I don't know, a trade or something. You know, what those big fat rich guys in cowboy hats up at the top of stadiums do when they're like, I think yours is cuter and would look better in my team's pants, and mine would probably look better in your colors anyway. You know what I mean? And the legendary duo will get separated for a few years and then they get back together somehow when they get traded back to the same team, and they're back on the field court together. Anyway, Andy and Kristen didn't miss a beat here, and it was beautiful. Tears to my eyes. And Jason just, again, this is maybe the fourth or fifth time now, goes, listen, I watched the show. And says it looked to him like Kristen doesn't like Janet. So she goes around telling everyone that everything is Janet's fault, making Janet the scapegoat. Sir, that is what your wife did to Kristen. What are you on about? Are you kidding me? Oh my God. Kristen did not have to do that at all, Jason. We, the audience, have eyes and ears, and they are, in case you were wondering, in fact, attached to a very highly sophisticated system that informs our brain of what we are hearing and seeing. And, it's almost as if you are calling everyone on this cast stupid and the audience all at the same time. That's really impressive. And now for the fifth time, maybe the sixth, he says something about this being a show. And he says, I watched the show back. And Danny tells him, yeah, buddy, you watched it back as her husband. And everyone else is cracking up because Kristen's like, what show did you watch? And that's the thing. And it's like I said, I bet they had two whiteboards. And then it's probably like when those straight men do those like fantasy football things, which the straight man in my house is going to be doing fantasy football this year and kind of uncomfortable with it. Yeah, of course. We could have done that with, but housewives and all that, it's year round. What if we can't really do that when like Love Island's on. So how do we do that? Should we do that? I don't know how it works. How do we do that? Should we do that? Oh my God, should we do it? I feel like we should do it. We should do it. I don't know how you do it. I'll ask ChatGPT. I don't know. I'll find out. Okay. I'll ask a straight man how, or like a really informed gay man who would understand what I'm wanting to do. Maybe. Anyway, we're coming back from break and Andy's telling both Brittany and Jax their hair looks nice. Now, listen, if there is one thing, Brittany has a gorgeous head of hair. All right. Would I love to see her bring up the length just a touch? Yes. We're in our 30s now, and, the hair should come, just like when it's straight, the longest it really should go for it to look healthiest. Typically, it's like just at the bottom of the rib cage. But you know what? Why am I being an ageist? Caitlin, shut the hell up. Keep your hair as long as you want, Brittany. I think I'm just jealous. If I'm honest, I'm just jealous. That's what it is. Because I have too much gray in my hair, maybe, to grow it that. Well, I'm not even going to say that out loud. I'm just being an asshole. Brittany has gorgeous hair. Caitlin, shut up. Anyway, and Jax is being all pissy. He just needs everyone to feel sorry for him in some capacity about anything and everything. And he says he's not happy with his hair. Oh, boo-hoo. And Janet tries to call out Jax over that hair loss promo party he had last year, that he didn't really have any hair loss, as he tries to show her his bald spot. It tells you he doesn't have one if he's having to try that hard to point it out, most likely. But she jokes that Jax has a good wig guy if he needs one. Janet, you already made that joke. It's done. It's dead. And listen, Zack has the thickest head of hair I've probably ever seen. And I just know from my years of doing hair exactly the type of hair he'd have. And if he were a female, it, he would be exhausted doing his own hair. I bet it has curl in it too. And that it would take like 3 hours, maybe 4 hours to blow it out and flat iron it. But God, I bet if he grew his hair out, or maybe he just has that like just straight as a board hair. I wonder. I'm just curious. Zack, I want to see your hair long. I know it'd be more work, but can we just do it for shits and giggles, please? Thanks. Andy asks Jasmine how she really feels about Janet at this point, after really going off on her on the beach. And she says she's known Janet the longest out of the whole group and that she's like family to her and they fight like siblings. She fights like that with Zack all the time, but that no, really her and Janet's friendship has not been the same because they don't even talk at all now. Really no? Okay. So basically, she says that she has a lot of love for Janet still and not hate or animosity, and that Melissa did point out that the scene where Janet was crying at their house, at her and Jason's house, that Jasmine was also crying because there's a lot of love there. Melissa was pointing that out to her. And Kristen isn't about to let this mushy-gushy moment be what it is when she knows how Jasmine has really been talking about Janet behind her back, though. And that's the thing right here. And I'm noticing this about Jasmine. I really, really like Jasmine a lot. I do. I will say I believe she is that type of person that has to vent with hardcore shit talking to more than one person. And that's where I personally like to keep my own venting shit talking, especially if it's about a friend that I really need to do it about. If it's that bad, I keep it to like Jay or my mom and maybe one friend, because I don't want to give any of my friends preconceived notions about a friend. I don't want to change their viewpoint of someone that maybe they know. And also, I don't think it's their business. I remember I had a friend who had said one time that and it was one of the few nice things she ever did actually say to me about me. Should have been my first sign. She was one of my best friends for many years. And she said, that's one thing I say about you is that you don't talk bad about your friends. And that's when I had noticed, she talks shit on every single one of her friends. Wonder what she says about me. I had another friend that literally never had anything nice to say about a single person in her life that she claimed to love. Even like the person I met her through, who she claimed was her very, very best friend, her family, her husband, no one. And that's when I was like, oh, what do you say about me then? Because I don't even know if you actually like have that much love for me. So gosh. And listen, everybody's got a vent, but that's what you got to ask yourself sometimes. If someone can talk a lot of shit to you about that many people that they claim to love, honey, they can talk a lot of shit about you. But Kristen calls out Jasmine that, yeah, there may be a lot of love there, but there's also a lot of shit talking because apparently there's a group chat about it too. And Jasmine owns up to it kind of and says there are things she needs to have conversations with Janet about. Kristen is going to help her along with that, though, saying that Janet stopped acting like herself. That's been the recurring theme here. Jasmine says, yeah, and that she does wish she had come to Janet with that. When Andy asks who there thinks that Janet is a Karen, there are nods from Kristen and Zack and sort of a side nod from Nia, but it's clarified there's more of that Karen energy. But again, this is one of those things, like I said, I think Janet, she has the energy of it and she overcompensates the way she is doing this white savior complex with Jasmine right here. And like I said as well, if Jasmine and Melissa had not been making it clear they didn't want this continued, I wouldn't say that. If they were sitting there going, thank you for standing up for us. We want, and continued to say, we want Danny held accountable. We are having a hard time voicing this. Thank you for helping us have a voice. And maybe they had been saying that. I don't know. I don't know. But speaking of performative, Jesus, take the wheel. Why are we back to Jax? And him acting like a pitiful, sad baby over the 12-hour rebranding of Jax's Becoming Brits. Yeah, can I get a PA? Do we have eyes on Jax's sympathy orchestra? I'm sorry, but for fuck's sake, the tiny violin. Is the tiny violin at least ready to go? Great. Mini sympathy violin flying in. And that's a go for mini sympathy Jax violin. Okay, go for sound. Jax says that it hurt when they put the Brits sign up and did the whole thing. And that throwing away his signs, oh, that was a little much, which is pointed at Jasmine at the moment. But Nia reminds him that it was a different situation. When it was, in fact, not that night that they did the Brits bar. It was the scene where Brittany and Jasmine met up with Schwartz at Jax's bar. And that Brittany had told them about all the shit Jax had pulled with not paying the mortgage. Jax, I don't know what you're doing here, but he's like, oh, hon, I wasn't there for that. Like, no, you grease goblin from the pits of hell. You were not there for 80% of the season, and thank God for that. Even the 20% you were there was too much. As Jax Hole says, it was hurtful. They rebranded the bar. Andy reminds him it was about them trying to prop Brittany up. It wasn't even about him. And they were trying to bring her positivity in such an incredibly bleak time. With Kristen adding that Brittany never even got to have any of her efforts celebrated with this bar that she put so much time and money into when it had his name on it. And it was all about him because Jax Hole Tahor is a narcissistic buffoon. Brittany says that even while Jax was in rehab, she is the one who was keeping the bar afloat. And at this point, she questions herself as to why she even was doing that. Andy asks Zack if he's allowed back into the bar at this point, and Jax immediately says no. But Brittany comes to Zack's defense, saying Zack came in with her every single time she was there while Jax was away, and that Jax's partners were extremely grateful to have him there. And Zack says it's really interesting that Jax only has this intense level of animosity toward him when he used to be the one who was such an apologist for Jax and would be there for both him and Brittany when they'd be having their issues. So for Jax to flip on both him and Brittany so fast and hard, it's pretty baffling to him. But Jax's excuse is the stuff that Zack would be saying on social media, which our screenshot shows Zack having posted, "Riddle me this. How is it possible you come out of rehab a worse person than when you went in?" Jax, you threw his best friend into a rose bush, called her fat, a tree trunk for stretch marks after giving birth, threw a coffee table at her, slut shamed her, and terrorized her after you cheated on her and terrorized her in general for 10 years. I mean, what the actual F? You're just so stupid. Anyway, Zack tells him, though, that the stuff he said on social media is nothing compared to what he would be happy and willing to say right to his face. And Jax does that whole old ass trope that guys especially do when they're feeling hurt by someone. Just like, I don't care about you. You're nothing to me. You're nobody to me. I don't care what you say. And Zack tells Jax, well, I care about you and our friendship, and I just want to see you be a better person. And I will say, I am genuinely shocked to hear Jason say that while he's had his own issues with Zack, that it actually sounds to him as though Zack is offering Jax an olive branch. Zack tells Jax that if he wants to prove he's, well, basically not an absolute piece of trash anymore, then he needs to work on showing the people closest to Brittany that he's not. Well, I don't think we'll ever. No. Andy breaks this tension by asking, is Frank Drummond allowed in your bar? Jax, it's unfortunate. You really are not as good of a liar or actor as you think you are, because he just looks at him and goes, who? He must have been smoking a blunt on the break because he can barely open his eyes right now, genuinely. And everyone is just howling. They're laughing so hard. And they're screaming at him that he doesn't watch the show. So, of course, Jax, you have no idea. And Jax admits, like, yeah, it's my burner account. It's not a big deal. It's Frank Drummond from Naked Gun. Okay, whatever. And he has to be informed that he was outed commenting on his own post saying, Jax is a legend. What man wouldn't feel this way? Blah, 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 blah. And how he had accidentally DM'd Brittany from the account. And he is trying so hard to act like he does not care he has been caught so hard and that he is not embarrassed. He keeps correcting Andy's pronunciation of Frank Drummond. First of all, he's gay. Let him put a spin on it. It makes it sound cooler. And then we end up getting some unseen footage from when Jax was selling all their stuff and like all of their PR stuff they would receive on eBay. And you could see some of Jax's bunion in one of the eBay photos. Ew. Disgusting. Ew. But yeah, I guess Jax was just like starting to sell that stuff during COVID when he didn't have a job anymore. And I'll throw him that bone. I get it. Andy brings up Jax showing up to Benji's little surprise party he wasn't invited to, and Kristen just starts cracking up saying that Jax pulled a Dodie. Who could forget her and Stassi showing up to Katie and Schwartz's engagement party at Vanderpump's house? God, that was quite a night now, wasn't it? But it's about Jax telling Zack that it was his show at that party, and Andy points out that Jax telling Lisa Vanderpump that Vanderpump Rules was his show and that it was successful because of him in season 8 was kind of the beginning of the end for him. And my goodness, look at history repeating itself with him not being on this show any longer. And Jax says, probably, pretending to be such a humble and contrite, good little boy. Please don't fire me. Please don't fire me. Please don't fire me. I'm better. You're fired. Ew, I hate that I just said a Donald Trump line. Anyway, Andy asks everyone to raise their hands if Jax has referred to this as his show. And every single person raises their hands, with Janet adding that he's let them know they're all just lucky to be here. Can you imagine how insufferable Jax has been ever since this show got greenlit? You guys should just be thanking me. You better show up and show out. You better bring it. You better. Jax claims it's true and that none of this would have happened if he didn't start it up, which technically is what I've heard, but also in Sheena's book, it sounds like Alex Baskin was talking about doing this already, like way back before Scandival even happened, actually. And listen, if you want a good laugh and can handle listening to it, it was an interesting book. I went into it with a very open mind. I genuinely did not go into listening to Sheena's book to bash her. Because, with what I do, I was like, I need to listen to this. Maybe there's some interesting content I can get out of it. If you want to go into it listen to bash her and you can stand the sound of her voice, then it's an even funnier listen for y'all. It's interesting. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to lie. Clearly I have not been paid to promote this, but Danny says that Jax claimed he fired everyone from season 1 because he didn't like his edit. And then Jax claims, oh, well, I don't have that kind of control. And that's when Kristen and Brittany are just howling and they say at the exact same time, wait, no. Well, no shit. Jax, you ain't got no control considering the fact you're not even on this network anymore. We now are on to Kristen and Luke's engagement and how hard it is to surprise Kristen because our little detective Dodie, But Luke knew she was the one when they did a 5,000-mile road trip with 4 dogs, and it was truly hellish circumstances that they survived just fine and dandy. Andy asks very much like, clearly this is the case, but he's like, so yeah, didn't watch Vanderpump Rules? And they did try, he and Kristen and Luke tried to recap season 1 on their podcast. Apparently, Luke couldn't do it anymore after that, and Kristen wanted to skip seasons 2 and 3 anyway. God, you guys, can you imagine? That would be hell. I would never want my partner to be able to sit and watch the absolute moron of a person I was in my 20s, and it would be the most embarrassing shit ever. No, thank you. Hard pass. Thank you so much, though. My partner, anyone. I don't want anyone to know. God. Oh, God bless these people. Kristen was trying not to be into Luke when they were first together and really just was like, oh, it's just going to be fun. Every excuse she could. He's 8 years younger. We don't live near each other. But she finally relented on it being maybe more serious after he'd said, I love you first, even though he tried to backtrack where he was like sweating and nervous and was like, I mean, I'm not like in love with you, but And Andy wants Kristen to show off the ring to the camera. Oh my gosh. That is a gorgeous ring. Well done, Luke. And then, oh my God. When after she says, it's perfect, it's bigger than I told him I wanted because I'm not really a flashy person, but yes, it's perfect. Jason is going, 4 carats. Wow, that's a lot of carats. And the look Janet gives him. Oh my God, you, sir, are going to be paying for that one. When Janet comes back with a new ring next season, do not be surprised. Good. But yes, Andy, I think it's safe to say Kristen was genuinely surprised when she turned around on the boat and just goes, what the fuck? Oh, sorry, I cussed. What the fuck? I thought there were dolphins. Apparently, she and Luke had already discussed if he was going to propose or not on camera, and it sounds like they agreed that he wasn't going to. And Jasmine, yeah, she had almost gotten those beans all spilled. El Coyote saying, yeah, Zack said there were going to be some special surprises in Hawaii. God, damn, I would have been sweating. It was sweet how hard Zack was working and hustling to get everything together for the engagement for Kristen and Luke in Hawaii. And Andy says that Zack could be a wedding planner, but he jokes that he will be leaving that to Brittany, which gives Andy the perfect opening to remind Luke of Brittany feeling left out when she wasn't included in the boat proposal, which Andy asks him why he didn't include Brittany. And Luke says, well, it's pretty plain as day that we literally saw it play out why he didn't include her. And apparently he had a conversation before the reunion, of course, with Brittany about this. And it did come down to her telling Jax. And if he had included her before the actual proposal and she had let it slip to Jax, he would have absolutely opened that giant ass fruit fly trap on his face and told everyone. And Andy asks Brittany if she told Jax to get back at Luke for not including her, which of course she denies. She's like, no, of course not. And they know that. I would never do something like that. Now, did I really just need someone who is dying to be on my side and just clawing as hard as they can to be on my good side to say, yes, Brittany, you should have absolutely been included. You would have been the best, most perfect person. You would have decorated that whole thing. You would have ordered everything perfect on Amazon, and you would have brought everything from Hobby Lobby that needed to be there for the decorations. Yes. Okay. That's what you were doing. Okay. Anyhow. Now, where are we? Kristen thought it was nice that Jason and Janet opted out of going to the engagement party. And Jessie wants to throw Michelle a bone here, giving her credit that she did put on that t-shirt with Luke and Kristen's face on it, which we get a confessional with footage that we didn't see where she was just like, great, now I get to wear a t-shirt with their faces on it. Okay. But this segment concludes with Andy saying how wonderful it is to see Kristen more mellow, pregnant, engaged after all the years of chaos with her. And now Andy asks Jessie if he went into Hawaii planning to confront Michelle's boyfriend, Aaron. Well, yeah, obviously he did always want to have that conversation. But, this is where I'm getting the structure of this reunion feels different than what they usually do. And I don't know why. It's almost like they keep randomly circling back to some of these toxic couples that I had already been so exhausted by, and I need to move on from them, to be honest. They have just been so toxic. Jessie realized that while he was upset, look, my own girlfriend called Michelle to ask about boundaries, but, I'm upset Aaron couldn't do that. I guess I'm capable of doing the same and just calling Aaron myself. Yeah, no shit, Jessie. That's called being an adult and taking control of your own life, you moron. But he says that while there were some intense moments with Aaron, he was looking him in the eyes and saying, man to man, I trust you. It's like, I don't know. I don't know how you could even look anywhere but Aaron's eyes. I don't know, except it's that when someone looks that concerned and startled all the time, it kind of makes you feel like you need to look over your shoulder. It's like, what? What? Is something behind me? It's behind me, isn't it? It would feel like you're in a horror movie at all times. Is Aaron okay? Yeah. In that flashback, when Jesse asked him if they crossed any lines, when he and Michelle were married, and the quiet, low toned, no, absolutely not. I mean, he just looks so startled all the time, like a little Australian bush baby. It's just so weird. I don't know where else you can see something like that, but bravo. What can I say? Now, apparently, when the LA fires were happening, Michelle's apartment was in that like warning zone while they had to evacuate at Jesse's home. And he had a conversation with Aaron about evacuating Michelle and little cutie patootie Izzy over to Aaron's mom's home because I guess there was some fight about it between him and Michelle because Michelle couldn't get Jesse to see reason at all with her on this. So she had to have a man speak to him, also known as Aaron, because he didn't understand that Aaron's mother lived farther away from the fires and yada, yada, yada. And Jesse says that if they're going to move forward, he needs to find a way to let the animosity go and whatnot. Except there's no moving forward for Aaron and Michelle because they broke up. I wonder if Aaron is startled by this. Kristen calling Janet a fan in Hawaii, and that being an insult or not is what Andy moves on to. And Kristen says that being a fan of Vanderpump Rules isn't what is creepy. It's that Janet changed her whole personality as soon as cameras were up and uses Jack's bringing her ex Alex on season 1 as an example with how Janet's confessional showed her blaming Kristen in that relationship, saying that Kristen had told her she did things wrong in the relationship because Kristen was being an evolved human admitting she did some things wrong. But that she found that Janet was saying she found it weird that Kristen was now making herself out to be the victim in that relationship. Which Kristen is saying she was floored by Janet bad-mouthing her on camera after she'd been one of her closest friends while she was dealing with that relationship and breakup. Andy asks Janet straight up, did you befriend Sheena and Kristen to get on TV? Yes. Oh, well, wait, are we surprised that Janet denies this? Janet goes, you're making it sound like I had good as gold posters all over my childhood bedroom. And Jax is just cracking up over there. Because could you imagine? Also, can you even get a good as I'm sure you can. I'm sure Sheena Shea is selling good as gold posters somewhere. She didn't even make a music video for that, by the way, that I could find. Don't ask why I was looking that up. Oh man. I'm a bravaholic. What can I say? You get curious sometimes, and I'm nosy. But Janet adds that if she did have these posters all over her childhood bedroom, Sheena would have told everybody because she would have loved that so much. But Kristen says that Janet developed an alter ego and that it's who she became on camera. But Janet says she didn't change on camera because that she and Kristen were bad for a year before they ever even started filming. And Jason is muttering about how there are no specific examples being given. But Danny's like, dude, there have been multiple specific examples. And let me go ahead and give you an example actually right now that is kind of personal for me, friends. Have y'all been listening to my theory about the fact that, and I have spoken on this multiple times, it's all coming together. How I have said multiple times, I have some friends that I adore that live in LA, and I think the world of these people, and they're friends with Janet. And these are friends who would not just be friends with her because she's on this show. They are not those type of people, okay? They would just be like, oh yeah, I met Janet, cool, whatever. They live in LA. And these are also the type of people who are around celebrities a lot. They would not give two shits about being friends with Janet Caperna. I can assure you of that. They certainly are not dying to rub elbows with her. So that is why I have been so genuinely perplexed. And they are not the fake type of, they are not people that are fake with people. They, especially people they don't like. We happen to dislike the exact same types of people. We always end up, when we're in the same room together, we're on the same wavelength, in fact. And I swear, I have been saying, have I not, that she just must be a completely different person than what we see on camera. Thank you. I hear you guys and I see you, because I know these friends of mine would never be friends with her if that's who she is off camera. They would never. These people I have so much respect for. I adore them. I'm not friends with people I don't respect and that I don't adore. How about that? I am particular about my friends, and especially on my journey with everything in my career, I have become far more selective in who I want to be friends with. And these are people I am happy and proud to call my friends. I'm not going to say their names because I don't want to throw them under the bus and into all of this, because that's not for them to be thrown into this. But this further proves Kristen's point. She is a different person off camera. She has to be, because I know my friends would not be friends with her if that's who she is. I know it. I have the utmost faith that my friends would not be. So I'm fully on board. But anyway, Jason says that Danny and Nia did not even know him and Janet before they started filming, with Janet reiterating that by saying they didn't know Danny and Nia before cameras. And Nia says, okay, you weren't the first couple to come over and meet our children. She's talking about their twin daughters. So Janet and Jason were the first couple to be at Danny and Nia's home to meet their twin daughters. And these two assholes are going to say they didn't know them before filming. Those babies were like 7 or 8 months old, at least last season, I think. Now, they may have filmed a test pilot, maybe when the girls were like 5 or 6 months old. All right. And maybe 4 at the earliest, probably 5 months old though. And Janet and Jason probably met them when they were a few weeks old. But apparently they were there dancing with little Asher in their living room and spending time with Danny and Nia at group gatherings as well. And Nia's very upset, understandably, saying how much they loved Janet and Jason. And Nia tells Danny she feels like she's going to have contractions or something because she is so far along, y'all, and she is so upset. And look again at little Miss, watch your tone. I am with child. Do not tell me there's no room at your inn. I am with child. Unto us a savior shall be born, because I am with child. I'm a mother. Not giving a single fuck at how upset she's getting Nia and Kristen, who are very effing pregnant, by the way. Just because she's not raising her voice doesn't mean she's not manipulating the situation and getting them as riled up as possible. I'm sorry, I'm saying it, Janet, you bitch. I said it. Oh God, I'm sorry. I did. I don't like calling another woman a bitch like that, but she is. She's being one. Kristen says that before filming, she had been fine spending time with her, Brittany, and Michelle, as in Janet. They were fine. So Janet's like, okay, if everything was so perfect back then, to Kristen, why did you have to ask me if you were welcome in my home for Ariana's birthday party? But Kristen is telling her she's not trying to insinuate it was like perfect butterflies and rainbows and unicorns between them, but it wasn't this disaster clusterfuck that it is now between the two of them. So Janet says, like, yeah, okay, it wasn't what it is right now, but at the beginning of last season, when you started it off telling everyone that I said Michelle was racist, not exactly cool with you from then. But she claims she doesn't say that. She didn't say that either. And I believe it came down to it being about Michelle supporting this Don't Say Gay bill in Florida, which is a Republican bill, which probably got Janet's gears turning that Michelle is Republican and snowballed into that. Let's just go ahead and call that what it is. Then we're on to an even more fun subject. Guys, can we just not be like this next season? For the love of God. You have something very good here. And I'm not just aiming this at Janet and Jason, because what Danny did was very wrong. I am not negating that. And I'm sorry, I like Danny and Nia, but Regardless, we cannot excuse that what he did was not okay. Period. I'm not going to. We're on to Janet saying that Danny sexually assaulted Jasmine when they were on the boat in Hawaii, and how she had just literally made up and made peace with Danny and Nia in the pool not even a day before. So it really made little to zero effing sense why she would go right back to that. But because Janet is not someone who takes any accountability for anything she ever does, she points her finger directly at Kristen for saying that Janet had been attacking Danny and Nia. And her defense is that she wasn't attacking them, but that because Danny did something shitty, they needed to address that. Because both Janet herself and Jasmine thought it was a serious incident, Janet decided to use the legal term to address it. To which Kristen is like, yeah, because it hadn't already been addressed like 40 times. I mean, Jesus Christ, no wonder actually Janet and Jason never fight, because Jason knows this bitch will likely never let a single issue they ever have die. She probably brings up the one time he forgot to replace the toilet paper roll 4 years ago every time they fight. I genuinely cannot stand people like this to my core, because anytime there's an issue, they are never looking to resolve it. They only want to break you down and wear you down until you say they're right, even when you both know they are wrong. But here's the thing. That's why I think she, Kristen, and Zack, the two versus her, they're never going to get along, because those two are just as relentless when they know you are trying to play games, honey. And it's funny to me how Jason keeps trying to say that everyone was trying to make Janet the scapegoat all season, when all I ever heard all season was Janet trying to make Kristen her scapegoat. Every time, even when she would make up with Kristen, she'd be like, well, it was Kristen who said this. It was Kristen who said that. Make up your goddamn minds, okay? Not the best lawyer there, are you, Jason? Janet asks Kristen why she brought up Danny and Nia's names if she wanted the topic dropped. And it's the same damn answer she has given you 80 times, Janet. That she was informing you the stupid, useless rumor that none of us give a shit about was brought up simply because Kristen was feeling bitchy poo herself after you wouldn't shut up about her friends. Danny and Nia, that's it. You brought up the ring rumor, Janet. So Kristen clarified for the millionth freaking time it wasn't about denigrating Jason's character. It was about getting you to STFU. Janet, it's just put my head through a wall if I had to be on that stage with her. Andy brings up Kristen saying that Janet was trying to ruin someone's life who doesn't deserve it, and asks Janet, so were you trying to do that? And Janet's answer is, well, I guess if you do the things you did, I think you are responsible for your actions, not me talking about your actions. If the allegations against you were not true, that would absolutely be on me that I was trying to ruin your life. But I think that if you put your hands on women without their consent, you have to own up to that. It's like, I think what's infuriating is she's not wrong, but she's going about it in the wrong way. It's like I can't form my words on this, because it's infuriating that she's not wrong, but she's using the fact that she's right, that the words are right, but the circumstance is not applicable in the exact way. It doesn't quite fit. And because I'm trying to say she's not wrong, but she's not right. And it's frustrating. And she knows this. That's how she's getting away with this bullshit. Then it's confirmed that it was battery. Battery is the touching without consent. And Danny says that he's owned up to his actions, with Nia backing him up on that he has done that and will continue to, because it's his character. And they point out how they had all four, as in Janet, Jason, Danny, and Nia, done these multiple apologies to try to get in a better place with each other. And it was literally the very next day that Janet tried to use these big old, big girl panties legal words, pulled them all out to accuse him of sexual assault. And Kristen points out how even Melissa yelled at Janet about it to stop talking about it. And Janet says that when she had a conversation with Jasmine about this, and Jasmine was telling her everything that had happened that night, that she told Jasmine, you know that's sexual assault, right? And that Jasmine then said to her, yes. And none of these idiot men ever have to face consequences for it. And goddamn, if we're not right back around to what I was saying about Jasmine. Love Jasmine. I want her on this cast. I like seeing her on my TV. But Jesus Christ. Y'all are making me tired. Andy asks by a show of hands who thinks that Janet was being reckless with her words by using the term sexual assault. And of course, it's Danny, Nia, Kristen, Luke, and Zack that raise their hands. And, it's funny the things our bodies will do to betray us when our brain wants to, lie and answer one way, but also knows the truth. Because Brittany is like way up here with her arm all the way up, playing with the strap of her dress, really high up suddenly. And Jasmine is talking with her hands way up high. And Michelle is suddenly holding her hands way up high at her chest. And to me, it's very transparent the way the body language is at this point. Those three wanted to raise their hands, period. Now Janet goes, what would you have preferred I said? Groped, molested? What would you have preferred? Nice try, Janet, but you already rehearsed and gave that line in the after show, so it's old. Jasmine is having an aside with Zack, telling him she thinks that Janet is over here trying to be a friend, but Zack tells Jasmine that he knows she doesn't even feel that way, as in Jasmine. So that's more insight into what's being said in this group chat. And Zack says the problem here is that it's not the way it's going to stay. And Jasmine says she did feel that way, that she did feel that Janet was trying to be a friend to her in the beginning when all this went down because she was so heated and angry with Danny after it happened. Everyone is yelling over each other. So Andy tries to regain control and wrangle these cats here by asking the only attorney in the room, Jason, who Kristen shouts, just a workers' comp attorney, against the workers who have been injured on the job, remind you, but okay. And Jason's like, yeah, but I also went to law school. So Andy asks him if charges were pressed for the ass touching, what would happen? Jason admits that he doubts the DA would pick it up or that he would do jail time. And yes, a very bad thing happened, but he doubts anything would come of it. So Andy brings it to the important question. So why use the term? Like, if it wouldn't be prosecuted and if it couldn't even be used in a lawsuit of any kind, what's the point? And here you go. All it took was Daddy Andy giving Janet any pushback for Janet to say, fine, I'll never use the term again. Happy Daddy Andy? Bitch, shut up. Nia wants it said that there needs to be clarity in these damaging, grand sweeping statements that Janet continues to make, like this has happened multiple times. It's a character assassination attempt. And Kristen tells Janet as Nia is talking, wipe that smirk off your face and listen to Nia because Nia listens to you when you speak. Oh, damn. Okay, Kristen, go girl. Oh my God. The next my entire skull with my brain attached inside is going to pop off of my spine. Okay? My shoulders, I am headless at the stupidity that Janet is about to spew. I am, take some deep breaths here. When Danny tells her that words hold a lot of weight and have the power to ruin people, Janet's moronic defense is, yeah, there's lots of words dropped among this cast that can ruin people. And as Kristen's yelling at her to stop deflecting, Janet goes, you said Michelle was a whore on camera. You said I heard Michelle sleeps with a billionaire for $1,500 a night on camera. The way this is so off base, he was literally exposing Jesse for the shit he is saying in the boys gossip girl group chat. He was not saying that he thought it was true. He did not call her a whore, you dull spoon in a wet paper bag of a human. What the hell are you even talking about? You should be looking at the person to your right, not Danny. What a damn moron you are. No, Jason goes, are we not allowed to paraphrase? Jason, shut up. Janet then says that Danny said Michelle is sleeping with men for money. No. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. I just, you know, Janet, I, oh, oh, that brain is all rounded edges, is all I can say. Danny said that Jesse claimed this. He did not say that he believed it or state it as a fact. You dipshit. Zack screaming at Brittany. We got to move on before I scream myself. At the Zen party is brought up and how they're way better now. And it did shock the shit out of Brittany. They actually met, though. Now we get a little more backstory. When Brittany was cheerleading at EKU, and Zack was dating one of her fellow cheerleaders, and they broke up, but they stayed friends. So, yeah, he moved to LA after she did, and the rest is history. And now we're on to Danny getting, well, physically blocked by Jax and why Danny thinks he was doing that. That's what Andy is asking Danny. Really, Danny feels that it was so that Jax could talk shit on him behind his back, saying that he wasn't invited because he was probably getting wasted somewhere when he was actually at home with the kids. And Andy asks him if this is why he brought up hearing Jax sleeps with the bar staff. I think it was less that and more that the fact that, well, Danny was fed up with Jax acting holier than thou after being a goddamn terrorist in an outpatient rehab facility. I'm sorry, at an Airbnb that he was claiming was an outpatient rehab facility, but okay. While also immediately drinking and using again, being wasted on everything under the damn sun, screaming at Danny about being drunk while Danny was sober. But alrighty then. Brittany says she had actually gone crazy on Jax previously about this rumor, and that while Jax says there are only 2 girls that work at Jax's Studio City, which is no longer Jax's Studio City, there's another one Brittany says she doesn't totally know about, another girl. Jax says he knows there's a rumor, but claims it's not true. As Danny says, he's also heard it from Jax's friends, who Jax says they're just making jokes about this, which I believe, yeah, they are. One, just making jokes, but also I'm sure they are doing that because they know you. I mean, come on. Oh, we're not as dumb as you are, Jax. Please, for the love of God. Brittany asks Luke what he knows about it. And Luke says that Jax actually brought one of his girls in to a bar that he was at one night. And that while he doesn't know if Jax and this chick went home and banged after, I mean, y'all, come on. We all know what this had to have looked like, right? Just picture the grease, the sweat, Jax Taylor sniffling and snorting his nose nonstop, getting handsy, pretending to be a good guy around this chick, being just a little chivalrous, opening her door, pulling out her chair, buying her drinks. It really does not take too much to put 2 and 3 together, honey. And Brittany just goes, Jax Taylor should not own a bar. He's got a lot of issues. We could have told you that from the beginning, Brittany, if you'd only listened. But Andy goes over to Jesse and brings up that he heard his girlfriend showed up to the Zen party at the end when cameras had stopped rolling. Blah, blah, blah from Jesse. The plans were this and that, and she came by afterward. Clearly, Andy heard about the argument Michelle got into with the girlfriend, and so he asks Michelle about the interaction with her because he wants to hear it from her. But all Michelle can say is that there was an issue, and her lawyer told her not to talk about it. So Andy goes, yeah, I heard you had a massive screaming match with the girlfriend after cameras went down. So Brittany has to step in for Michelle, saying that Michelle's attorney told her not to talk about it because of Jesse's girlfriend's legal threats. So Kristen goes, guys, can we not do this stuff on season 3? Like all these legal threats. Can we just film a show? Because y'all, Kristen is going to Dodie and a Dodie is going to Mariposa. And she cannot be worrying about legal fees, babes. Jesse says that if they're going to be talking about the girlfriend when she's not here to defend herself, but Andy stops him right there. And Andy, Daddy, I love you so much for this. Daddy. Andy tells Jesse, yeah, but she showed up at an all-cast party and made a legal threat. And then Jesse has the audacity to try and make his girlfriend sound like a victim of Michelle and production by saying that the second she walked in, they grabbed a camera and put a boom over our heads. Andy. To which Andy says, as they should have. They were doing their job. And if she were here today, do you know what I would do? Stick a mic on her and get her out here. This is a hot set. This is a show called The Valley. That's your girlfriend? I want to talk to her. Bring her out. Let's get her on the phone. You understand? Yes. And Jesse just gives a, yeah. And Brittany's over there going, amen. Like she's in some Kentucky Sunday service. And Michelle loved seeing Jesse's ass getting put in place because really, Andy just like fully gagged him, letting him know, Jesse, buddy, there are plenty of headband, hair dented douchebags running around the valley cosplaying as real estate brokers, and anyone can lease a Tesla these days while wearing Cher Horowitz's coat. You feel me? Because by the way, I would love to know where that coat's from, Jesse. It's cute. I think it'd fit me. Andy lets them know we're hitting the conclusion here, and that if some of them don't find a way to resolve these issues for filming to resume in a few months, that the audience doesn't need to hear them circle the drain with the same annoying as F toxic fights and arguments. And if they're going to continue that, they're fired. So let's figure it out now. So he wants Jesse and Michelle to try that exercise where you say something you're grateful for about the other person because you both suck. And I don't know, maybe you found something redeeming in the other one to stay with someone who sucks so bad because you both suck so bad. And you were together almost a decade. So you both suck. So what's something you found in the other person that sucks? Jesse says he loved Michelle very much for a long time and had an amazing start to their relationship, and that she's going to prosper and grow now that she's found someone in Aaron, but also, remember, sorry, not anymore. Anyway, that is now going to give her the attention and nurturing she's always needed. Andy says he's trying to think if that was nice as Kristen's tearing up going, oh my God, that was so nice. Michelle goes, say something nice now? I mean, I guess he's a good dad and I can't keep him away from our kid. I mean, I'd never want to keep our kid away from him. I like seeing him with our kid on camera, whatever. Andy asks Jason if he feels resolved. Because again, are you going to talk about this same shit in 2 to 3 months when we film again? Because if so, I'm going to have to fire your ass. He doesn't know, though. He wanted certain things to go differently and finds it sad. I was cracking up that Andy skipped right over Janet because he goes over to Zack and asks if there's anyone he needs to resolve things with. And because Zachary understands the full assignment, he says, yes, there's one person. And he looks to Janet, telling her that if she can take accountability for the things she's done and he can do the same, then maybe they can move forward to make Brittany's life a little easier. So Andy suggests they unblock each other on socials, which apparently Janet had already done that, but Zack blocked her. No one cares that Jason has Zack blocked. But anyway, Zack pulls out his phone and unblocks Janet. And not that we care, but Andy asks Jax where his headspace is going to be leaving here tonight. And Jax says a bunch of, I feel sorry for me. I'm such a good person now, even though I'm the worst person on the planet. And I just want to be able to talk to Brittany peacefully and be amazing co-parents to that one kid. What's his name again? Valley. Oh, sorry. That's my job. I meant my kid. He's number 2 on the list. That's Cruz. Yeah. Hopes Brittany can find it in her heart to forgive him one of these days. Andy asks if tonight was a good start in that direction to Brittany. And she says, I don't know. She's like, sorry, I need to see the changes. And you know what? We may feel how we feel about Brittany sometimes, but good for you for staying strong, girl. We're going to do the end toast. And because we have one sober person, one person being accused of having an alcohol problem, and 2 pregnant women, they're going to have some mocktails in these glass bottles. Brittany gives the toast. It's done. It's over. And guess what? We hopefully never have to see a new scene of Jax Taylor on our televisions from Bravo NBCU ever again. Bon voyage, Jack's whole coochie tehor. It's been real. You are not the number one guy in the group. You never were, and you for sure never will be. I do hope you stay sober. I do hope you get the therapy you need. You know what? I think you need it twice a week. I sure hope you go back and watch yourself on television from season 1 all the way through this season. Force yourself to watch every single deplorable thing you have done, said, everything. And maybe I will believe that you are making an effort to be a different type of human being. Until then, sir, you will remain a minion of the Antichrist, born of Beelzebub's asshole, in my eyes. Okay, have a nice life. Besties, that is the end of the valley for us. Next week, I do believe I will be trying to wrap up The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives because I do believe it's not too terribly long from now. Back end of season 2 is coming out. I don't have anything I can say, but I do believe we have my guess. My guess right now is 1 to 2 months. So I better get that wrapped up. And then I'm going to remind you the week of the 26th, I will be on a vacay. So there will be no podcast that week. But when I come back, Orange County, and then I have an exciting announcement about the podcast. Get excited. Please leave me a little 5-star review with a comment about what you do like about this show. It's free. It's the best way to support this show. If you're watching on YouTube, like, subscribe. I love you so much. Comment and go follow me on all the socials at Besties by Caitlin, Caitlin. And I will see you next week. Have a fabulous weekend. Thanks again for joining. Bye.